This week on the show, JJ goes to the parks. I'm at Caulfield. We really drill down into the two Group 1s, 1,000 Guineas and in particular the Sir Rupert Clarke Stakes, because I think the map's going to be really important, in particular the two horses that are popular in the market, Jimmysstar and another Will. So we have plenty of info about those horses. Both sets flying at the moment. Pin the tail. JJ got one back with Giga Kick last week. This week it's going to be the favourite in the 1,000 Guineas, Aliana. Again, we're a little bit different there. Let's have a crack at the Jules and JJ show. Great throw, mate.
I told you I'd get it right.
Hello and welcome to the Jules and JJ show. My name's Julian Valence, joined in Adelaide by James Jordan. A bit of feedback here, JJ. People are not interested in how your week's been, how your dog's going, it's barking, all that sort of razzmatazz. Can you give the punters out there something that actually they can hold on to and keep? Got a horse for us in the last, say, 10, 12 days in Adelaide that we should be keeping an eye on next start?
Welcome. Good to be here. Right out of the box, this little intro. Seeking Stardom is a horse. Andrew Lewis' stable going very well. Seeking Stardom was first up on Melbourne Cup Day at Morphettville. Unsuitable trip, ran a really fast last furlong to win. I think it's in for a good prep. It'll get over further. So if I'm giving you one to follow, Seeking Stardom would probably be that horse. He's not going to go and win a group race, but he's one that you can follow, I think, through this preparation.
All right, beautiful. Much better intro. That's what we're going to keep going with, I think. Punters, let's get into the track intel. Righto, track analysis, JJ, you can kick us off. We go Morphettville Parks, and there might be a bit more than a Zephyr around as well. So what do we got for Adelaide today or this week?
I reckon a bit of rain forecast on Saturday, so it'll either be a 4 or a 3, depending if that rain turns up or not. The rail is in the true position, first time for a little while. Winds on the outer track would be a factor. It still might be a bit against leaders. It's 30 to 35 kilometre northwesterly, basically a headwind as they come down the side to enter the straight. So it might soften the leaders up a little bit. Similar sort of feeling at Caulfield, I think. Maybe the horse is just in behind them, close to the speed. I reckon close to the speed's better than swooping, but maybe leading might be a bit tricky. So horses sort of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe with cover, might be the horses to follow.
All right, so there's the track intel for Morphettville Parks. For Victoria, we go to Caulfield. So we've obviously had those 4 meetings at Flemington after Moonee Valley, and now we get back to Caulfield for this Group 1 meeting. Out 6 metres the entire circuit. Look, good for currently. Expect an upgrade at some stage throughout the day. They'll probably have to put plenty of juice on this track just for the fact that we're expecting really hot conditions on the Saturday, up to sort of 30 plus. So, and also the other factor here, 30 to 40 kilometre northerly wind. This will impact how these races are run and won, especially in the shoot. We talk about this a lot at Caulfield. That northerly wind, when it gets up to sort of 25 kilometres plus, or it could possibly be hitting 40 kilometres, headwind in the shoot. So sometimes leaders, well, obviously the jockeys just ride like that. They want cover, no doubting that. So we're not going to get real fast speeds, especially early out of the shoot. So just be mindful of that. In terms of how we think it's going to play out from a numbers point of view, I think forward of midfield still from the shoot is going to be an advantage, but you'll probably want some cover. And I think the jockeys understand that as well. So leaders may be affected there. Circle, on speed and advantage. Now, it's not as pronounced around the circle races. Maybe the 1400, but anything else around the circle, don't get too scared about being a leader and not being able to win with this northerly wind. It's really evident in the shoot, not so much for the circle. So just be mindful of that going forward, but still think on speed's going to be a major advantage there. So if you're sitting sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you might be in the gun spot. That's the track intel for this week, punters. Okay, the Group 1s continue as Racing Victoria continues to just stretch out this carnival for no other reason other than to collect premium product fees. Don't get sucked into anything else that they think they're doing to try and support the game. Going to start with the 1,000 Guineas here, JJ. Market in behind me. Aliana wins the Carbine Club and it is our favourite. Just from a map point of view, I'll just kick us off. And then you just chime in if you think you might have something different, because I think the map's going to be important here. Probably Two Darn Lizzie has to lead or will lead, I think. No doubting that. Dominetta was an interesting horse that I thought might roll, sit outside lead. Stage and Screen's a really interesting one. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually rolled forward, but I've got a question mark on that because that has some impact as well as for a couple other horses. I think GG's Mistruth will go forward. Whether it can get in might be dependent on what Stage and Screen does. So I think that's important if you've got those sort of horses in your thoughts. I thought Zaitung was an interesting horse that might have to go back rail, could be in a tricky spot. Aliana and Benegil, I think, will be going back. Anything different there that you saw outside of that? I thought maybe a horse like Supercilious will probably end up 3-back rail. What do you think of the 1,000 Guineas? As I've got the market behind me, as I say, but from a map perspective and how you thought it might set up, JJ?
I thought very similar. I've got Two Darn Lizzie leading, Dominetta outside leader. I've got another Profit box seating, and then Stage and Screen 1-1. I thought Supercilious would be 3-back the pegs. I thought on its back, Zaitung would be 4-back the pegs. Lovely cut, probably slots in 1 out, 2-back. I wasn't sure if they'd go forward GG's Mistruth. I reckon the dominoes might fall into place early and they might look at it and think, I can't get in there, and just they'll be posted 3 wide, probably midfield was my thought. And on its back, maybe Matisse, Benegil, Aliana, one of those. Wouldn't be surprised if J-Mac just takes his medicine and sits out the back last. So he's got options on Aliana. He'll want to get rolling on her. He'll know that she's a bit of a not a one-paced horse, but she takes at least a furlong to get going. And she's gone Ramwick, took a stack of riding, and then Flemington took a lot of riding strong late to
great point.
It's
a good point. So she looks, she could be a big track horse.
I think she is, because she takes a furlong of J-Mac riding at a furlong, not just an apprentice, like trying to get it going. It's J-Mac a furlong of hard riding before she picks up. So he'll be thinking, if I'm even inside 1 and 3 wide line, and I need to get at her when I want to get at her, he might need to just go, I'll sit last, that way I can stoke, come to the outside, and I can give her that furlong before she hits her top to sort of loop them. So he might just sit out the back and play it cool. But I think there's genuine tempo, but the Waterhouse Bot pair will probably lead them up. As far as a bet, I haven't had a bet in the race. Stage and Screen, I wanted to have something on, but it's well found. If it drifts, I could have something on it. It's got some upside. I think it maps really well, so I'm not against it if I can get a better price. And the other one was Benegil. Just not sure if Luke Curry's got the best left hand in the game, and I feel like that horse needs a good left-hander. If it ever cops like a Mickey D or even a rider who's got a really strong left hand, I think Benegil can run figures good enough to win this race, albeit maybe not on Saturday. So they're the two, if I was giving you a push. Stage and Screen, Benegil, probably the two I'm most interested in, but at present I haven't had a bet.
Yeah, it's an interesting race because it sort of revolves around the favourite, and the favourite obviously will be our pin the tail, so we'll get to that shortly. Punters, in terms of where we think sort of the price point is for Aliana. She just, to me, as JJ mentioned, just looks like a dead set big track horse. And even though sometimes to the eye, you look at the race and go, geez, that horse looks like it's gone enormous. There's no figures to back it up really to go, I'm going to stamp this horse that it's going to continue to improve and progress and be able to, deserve to be the price that it is currently in this race. So it's going to be tricky. I think that it's going to have to get going, I think, at some stage. And it's going to be, I think, a real ugly watch at some stage for punters if you are on this horse. It might get over the top of them, but I don't think it's going to be blending in at the 300 and it's all over at the 100 metres. I think he's going to have to work on this J-Mac, this horse, especially around Caulfield. I thought Supercilious just brought a different form line altogether. That Contagio form line, I think, is better than everything else that's coming out of these races, especially the sort of filly lead-up races. I've just got no numbers behind them, but Connections are going to have a good result if they can get the winner of this race, but I just thought different form line might be the answer here in the 1,000 Guineas. Let's get to the Sir Rupert Clarke Stakes, JJ. Again, the market behind me with PointsBet. Jimmysstar, as you can see, they were sort of equal favourites throughout the week. Jimmysstar and another Will, but there's been a good push for Jimmysstar probably Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Map perspective here, interesting. You would think Gentleman Roy probably can cross Run Harry Run, and Run Harry Run then probably takes leaders back. You'd think Buffalo River will continue to push forward. It only knows one way, probably sits outside it. War Machine back on the inside. Jimmysstar's probably 3-back rail, could be even 4-back rail. Don't be surprised if it's 4-back rail. Another Will, I think, probably takes the back of either possibly Stapati, which might roll forward, or a horse like Run Harry Run if they decide to possibly sit maybe in the 1-1. So there's a bit in this race. Komochi, Tuvalu, you'd think they'd roll forward as well. There's plenty of speed, isn't there, JJ, for this 1,400 metre race. It's just, I think, dependent here now. The first 300 to 400 metres are unbelievably important for Jimmysstar to probably not end up 4-back rail, and another Will Jimmysstar as well to probably try and have that horse back on its left so it can sort of dictate a little bit of when to go and when not to go and keep the main danger in its pocket. But first 400, I think, crucial, especially for the two favourites in this race. How do you see it?
Definitely think there's a lot of pressure in the race. The interesting thing I think is that Jimmysstar from its gate, it's going to be cluttered up. You probably cop that and you think that from the start. The interesting one I reckon is another Will. The day she was held up, Jamie, and I think Blake Shin nearly put her through the fence, it picked up and dashed well. Then last start, it's almost like she was content to be in that spot. I know she didn't direct it there, but she wasn't in a panic to get out of being cluttered up and being in a pocket. I think she probably feels like the horse responds and races very well when it is in a pocket, held up, and then gets a late split. So she might almost seek that sort of run with it. You'd normally think, you've got the favourite back behind you, you're the second pick in a race, it's really well placed. You would just be 1-1, get it out, no hard luck stories. I think the horse might be better off, and I think she might feel that it is a good horse to actually get some cover and put it in a pocket and let it be exposed late. So wouldn't shock me if she does sort of take her medicine to a degree and is almost happy to get some cover. But they're the two. I mean, looking at the tempo, you think you want something that's going to be in behind the speed, not copying the headwind around the turn, but it's not too far off them. It doesn't have to loop and make up 6 lengths. And the two favourites are sort of those horses. They're both drawn to get sort of suck runs. I've got them both marked a little bit longer than they are. Can't find value. The one I thought, going through my prices, the one I thought was over the odds was Gentleman Roy. I know he's going to have to lead, and maybe we'll know, whether they can lead around the circle by that stage. But I think he's almost a forgotten horse. He's running the Memsey. He split, it was Brightside, Jenny, Antino, horses like that. Pinstriped, I think, won the race. But it's good form, and he's had a bit of time off. 4 weeks between runs. He could bounce the lead, and you never know. He might run a good race.
Yep. It's an interesting race, that's for sure. And I think the genuine tempo is another factor that I think punters need to think about it with another Will. So another Will, when it's been able to sprint really quickly, softly run races. The 2 times that it has really failed were a Doncaster earlier in the year on the quick 7-day backup, high pressure race. And then in the Toorak, really high pressure race. And it hasn't been able to absorb it. Here, you'd think again, probably a high pressure race, albeit at 1,400 metres and not 1,600 metres like those 2 races that he did fail in. But a bit of moment of truth, I think, for another Will. And I'm not suggesting this horse is going to fail here now, but I think 3 times a charm possibly for another Will, that if it was again to be a high pressure race and it was to fall out the back of the TV, then I think we know the kryptonite of another Will going forward. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
You should say that, Jules. When I did the prices, so I do that when I'm trying to do it quickishly. I do the map and give them a figure at the same time. So you'll be third defence, this is your figure. You'll be fourth. Then once I've done the map and the figures, I then go back and go, what do I make of the shape of the race? And I looked at this race and thought, right, high tempo. So then I go back through. Once I'd mapped them and given them the figure, I actually had another Will favourite. Then my summation on the race was high tempo. Then I went through and said, which horses can cop a high tempo? And that's the point where I actually took a bit off another Will and added a bit to Jimmysstar. He's proven he likes a strong tempo. So that was the difference. I originally had another Will favourite and I've switched it around. I've got Jimmysstar favourite now on the basis of what you said. I'm not yet convinced that another Will sprints off a strong tempo.
Yep, it's something for the punters to try and figure out what they're going to do with those horses. And if they do go fast, then probably it does string them out a little bit. Being back on the inside for Jimmysstar, gaps are going to actually come open for Damian Lane as well, so it might not be too bad. But if for some bizarre reason it's very different to how we perceive, and this actually is a moderate tempo, then maybe he's in trouble because he does get cluttered up and it's probably an advantage to another Will. So plenty to play out for you to figure out there, punters.
Before we finish with Jimmysstar, what do you do? Jockey change, Blake Shin to Damian Lane. What is that like for like? Is it a downgrade?
It's like for like for me. And I know, but it all depends. Yeah, for me, I think Damian Lane is as good as anyone. He probably hasn't had the best 3-4 months compared to say what Blake's done, but he's as good as we've got, Damian Lane, and I think he'll suit this horse just as well. no issue there. He'll do the right thing, I think, by the Jimmysstar punters. Yourself, you've asked the question. What do you do?
I've got an angle. Look, I would probably, if I had a horse and I had the option between the two, I'd probably go with Blake Shin at the moment. Damien Lane's a great rider. I'd probably just have a short half head Blake Shin, but as you said, I wouldn't argue if you didn't make an adjustment there.
Yep. Bit in that there, punters, the Group 1 set, and I think the maps and how these races are going to be run are going to be critical. Righto, let's get to the SA set, JJ, for the Morphettville Parks. Obviously, since the inception of us coming across to PointsBet early July or middle of July, return on investment, profit on turnover, plus 41% if you're level staking all of your selections. And there's plenty of selections in there, punters. So it's a big sample size. That's where we sit with JJ in SA. And I think he's got 4 for us here. Fire away, mate.
Any movement on that site in the Grampians yet? Have you had an update?
Well, I tell you what, there might be another head joining you when you get to the next bloke's ROI as well. So we'll see what we go there anyway.
I have got 4, but they're spread across 3 races, so I've got a double play. I've taken a leaf out of your book. You love that. Anyway, the first one's race number 5. It's a mare called Aruga Mama. We know it in SA pretty well. It's been to Victoria, had a few runs there. She was back to something like her best last start. She'd sort of been a bit below that this prep, but got back to her best last start, a bit like they did with the stable Andrew Lewis did with Air Assault last start. It got back to its best after having a couple of flat runs. I reckon they're training very well. They got their eye in. So I think Aruga Mama back to its best form and gets to the Parks track. That's the key thing. It's had 5 goes at the Parks track for a couple of wins and 3 placings. Never really missed at the Parks track. So when it finds its form at an away track, then gets back to its sweet spot, I think you've got to take notice. So Aruga Mama in race 5. Map's probably 1 out, 1 back. It'll be very hard to beat. Race 7, this is the 2-pronged attack. Thermodynamic and Even Sharper. They're the 2 I want to be on. Probably go almost top fluck with Thermodynamic. I'm not convinced it'll shorten up. I reckon Even Sharper will hold its spot. I think in that race, you've mapped to get the leader and leaders back. And I think that's probably going to be a good spot for horses on Saturday. There's a few in the race I'm potting. Nuri's, Fillets, Chosen Miss. They're all too short. So that's why I'm happy to have 2 bets in the same race. Level stake. And I think you can hopefully corner the race. And the last of the selections is in race number 8. It's a horse called Beauty Bound. She's racing really well. Mapped well last start, 1 out, 1 back, and put them away convincingly. Might settle a pair further back in this, but there is really good speed. Lockie Neindorf riding well. Stokes stable, going very well. I like the speed in the race. I think she can finish off over the top. So they're the 3 races. It's race 5, Aruga Mama. Race 7, 2 of them, Thermodynamic and Even Sharper. And in race 8, Beauty Bound. Beautiful.
That's JJ's SA set in behind me there. Punters. All right, let's get to my Victorian set. Same for JJ in terms of our inception here across with PointsBet, level staking since July 20. Big sample size, return on investment, profit on turnover, exactly the same as JJ's now. 41%, so I had a pretty good Flemington, but let's get on with it. No one cares about the past. Let's get to the future. First race at Caulfield on Saturday. It's just a benchmark race, but a horse right down the bottom called Ruakaka Raider. Now, it's just sort of been off Broadway, actually been running both its races at sale. Now got to come to the Metro, but don't be worried about that because at the end of the day, this is a benchmark 74. So this is where they're going to come from. Off 168 days, was first up with 62 kilos, unsuitable distance. Yes, it was a benchmark 58. Run second, went really good. Then last start, I thought it was outstanding winning. Big number I've got. Third up now, I think it peaks. Drops in weight, had 59 last start as well. So it's carried 62, 59, drops to 56 kilos here on Saturday and just brings a different form line. High and Proud and Sure, they're sort of cornering the top end of the market. I'm happy to be around them. I just can't get them anywhere near as short as their current quote. I'm happy to be with Ruakaka Raider each way in the first race at Caulfield. Then we go straight to race 2. Number 16, Tiffany Valentine. Now, before it went for a break, it won a benchmark 70 at Pakenham and went through the roof, +9 on my figures, which means nothing, but it's just, that just doesn't happen too often. Then first up, Geelong, just was out the back, raced in rate through the roof, but I thought it was really good through the line. Here's the key factor for the punters out there and what you've got to try and understand now. This is what we do as punters. We figure out all the variables, what we want to be with, what price, and here's a really important one. Tom Preble gets an opportunity on a big race card, a Group 1 day. Now, he's shooting the lights out in the provincial. Absolutely outstanding. 6 from his last 24, going at 25%. Now, the market expectation is 12%. So you're winning plenty of money if you're backing Tom Preble in the provincials. Now let's do that in the city. And this is the key factor that I know going in when I'm having this bet, but I'm also making it some clarity for the punters out there. He's 3 from 53 in the Metro. 6% versus the market expectation of 11%. And if it go down to single figures in the Metro, he's 1 from 19. 5% versus market expectation of 21%. Now, this is his moment of truth, I think, for Tom Preble. He gets a really good gun for the gate for this horse. He should be sitting in the first half of the field. And at each way, he's a cracking bet. But this horse is a cracking bet. But he's got to do the right thing here. What he can bring to the provincial, he needs to bring to the Metro. So you can understand that the market might take a set against this horse, and it'll be purely off probably the stats of the jock, but I'm going to back him in that he's going to do the right thing by us on Saturday. But you can understand why there might be a shift in the market if that's to occur, because they're the numbers we're working with. He's doing it in the provincial. Let's get him to do it in the Metro, and then he can really go on in leaps and bounds. And then we get to the last race, a mare called Guineas. She is just an outstanding mare, this horse. Every time she goes to the races and wins, it's a big number. She came from New Zealand, big numbers last prep, went to Pakenham, then Sandown Lakeside, and then Flemington. They're all like +5, +6, +7. Don't see that too often. First up, was off the map, made them look second rate, can sit on speed. Happy to be with Guineas in the last race. So there's a bit in there, punters, but just giving you some context around what might happen with a couple of those prices of those horses. That's the Vic Set for this week. Righto, snap or don't snap. JJ, 67 from 82, going at 82% this year, which would have taken at the start of the journey. I let us down a little bit last week with a few that just didn't seem to go the way I thought they would go, but you've got 3 don't snaps, I think. I've got 3 don't snaps. Do you want to kick us off? Because I think your horses in early races.
Yeah, so I think the key with the 3 I've got is the way the markets operate, really. One bookie goes up first, for those that don't know. One bookie goes up first, and then the rest sort of copy after that point, and then 1 or 2 of the joints will have their own opinion, and they might top and tail. But they start with the working point of the first bookie that goes to market. And obviously that market gets knocked around a bit if they're wrong. Now, all 3 of these horses are a result of the first bookie going up, getting the prices wrong and having them way too short. So they've already started to drift. They've drifted a lot, but they still haven't drifted far enough. So that's sort of where I'm at. Whereas the market late, they don't really care what the first bookie put up. It was just a starting point for them. It's irrelevant by the time they jump. So these are the 3 that I think will drift that went up far too short. Race 2, Royal Majesty. It's about 480 at the moment. I think it'll drift and start longer. Race 3, Gotta Go Guru. This one went up ridiculously short. It doesn't get warm for another probably 600 metres on top of today's journey, so I think it'll continue to drift. And in race 7, Nuriz went up way too short. Awkward map for it. Michelle Milnes has been riding. I think she's actually stuck in Bali with some volcanic ash. So
yes.
Flight's delayed. So she's actually probably not going to ride it. But either way, it'll drift, and I don't think she'll feel too bad about missing that one. I'd be surprised if it can get the job done. So they're the 3, all unders, race 2, race 3, race 7. Hopefully they all drift.
Beautiful. Okay, so my 3 also I think are going to be drifting as well. Starts in race 3, obviously, Is It Me? Well, with this horse last start, did everything right, just couldn't get over the line, maybe just some strength in that last 100 metres might have been the answer. But horse is going really well. It's just where it maps and just the price point. Just think that sort of $4, $4.20 is a bit short for me. And just from where it maps, wouldn't be surprised. I think if you like this horse, and understandably reasons why you could like this horse and should like this horse, I just think you're going to get better than the current price on offer. So just hold off. In race 6, To Be or Not To Be, this is a white hot fillies race, this one. And just this horse I think's got some exposed form, and I just think there's some other horses left field that are probably going to get past this horse, and I just think it's priced up what it's been able to be running against. It ran against Bellatrix Star early in the prep, but it could be over the top now. It's been up for a long time. That $5, $56, I think if you like it, you're going to get a better price. And in race 8, we go to New York Hurricane, who won the Kyneton Cup really impressively. Second go, 2,000 metres, drops in weight. There's a lot of factors why this horse will be really well supported by the market. Just couldn't get it as short. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if the market just took a slight set against this horse, and you're going to get better than the current price available at PointsBet for those. So there's the 6 horses. Again, if you like them, not saying don't back them, just saying if you're going to back them closer to the death, you're going to get more money in your pocket. All right, pin the tail time, JJ. Scoreboard now reads at 11.6. You drag one back with Giga Kick. SP'd $5 with PointsBet. I went with 6. You went with $4.40.
They're a bit heavier in real life.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have felt it for a while.
Do you notice I went with the Coke Zero?
Yeah,
and the reason
I'm very well what you went with.
That's my care factor, mate. That is my care factor. It is 0.
It's so funny. When you were 2-1 up or whatever it was, I was like, I really like that segment. It's a great segment. Yeah. All right, Aliana, we're doing the 1,000 Guineas favourite. I'm going to go $4.20. I think I just don't have any numbers to support how short it really was. Now, I think on the Monday, just before acceptances were done, this horse was kicking around 270, 280, and then they sort of put up 310, 320 when the final field was done. It sort of kicked out a little bit now, sort of that 340, 350 range. Yeah, I've got it $4.20. So I just think from the map, I know it gets James McDonald, so there's obviously a lot of factors going to keep this horse in, but I was happy to spit out $4.20 for the PointsBet SP. You're a bit shorter than me.
I am. I'm 370, and I'm sort of with you. Like, it is, in my opinion, a big track horse that needs a bit of riding to hit its top. So I was thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to suit. So then how much do you take off what I thought last start, which was a good rating in my opinion? I think there's a couple of things to factor in. One, the JMac tax. They're going to want to back him. He hasn't got a stack of rides either. He's just going, I'll ride that and I'll ride that, and the rest, don't worry about it. So the punters are going to want to cling to him. He's had a pretty fat last sort of fortnight. The other thing is, I reckon the way the map is, that there's good horses around him or her. I think like Matisse will be back there and probably want to work into the market, work into the finish. Bennegill will want to sort of work into it. So he might actually get a trail in. So that's the reason I didn't go any longer. I've got 370. Looking forward to the race, so it will be a good watch.
All right, very good. So there's pin and tail this week. Punters, knock yourselves out if you want to have a crack as well. But JJ 370, I'm 420. All right, JJ, let's get to the plays of the day, my friend. You can kick us off first because your race comes up a little bit earlier than mine.
Yeah, I've got race 5, Aruga Mama, as my best bet. As I said, she's a mare that showed good sort of talent last prep and the prep before that. She's sort of been in the wilderness a little bit, sort of early to middle stages of this prep. Then she bounced back to something like her best last start, and she did it on the outer track when her best form and certainly strike rate is on the inner track at the Parks. She gets to the Parks on Saturday. I think she maps well, 1 out, 1 back. She's ready to win. So I'll make Aruga Mama my best bet in race 5.
Got to wait till the last for me at Caulfield. Long wait, but Niance, outstanding first up, just building a really good record. She can sit forward of midfield, which I think is going to be an advantage, obviously, on Saturday. Just sort of sit maybe 2 pairs back, and then I just think she explodes and really runs away from them. I think there's maybe a slight knock that she's possibly a soft tracker, but I've gone back through her other wins and even just her performances, and on dry tracks, no issue whatsoever as well. Big win at Flemington one day. Sandown Lakeside was a dry track, and obviously there was another joint in there between as well, Pakenham, which was a dry track. So I'm with Niance in the last. I think she can get the job done for us. All right, so it's our hourly quaddie time, JJ, with our friends at PointsBet. Now, I think the last 3 weeks, we're going exactly how you're supposed to go with a quaddie. You get 3 legs and then you just bomb out. So whether you call it a multi or a quaddie, but for the sake of this, the 2 p.m. hourly quaddie for us this Saturday kicks off Caulfield race 4, 1, 3, 4 are the 3 horses I think we only need. Then we flick over to Adelaide. What have you got for us there? It's race 2. Yeah, it's race 2.
I went 1, 2, 3, 5. Like
you did. You went. Ice. Yep.
I've backed 7 ice, but I think it's short enough now. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 5. I'd be very surprised if the other 2 that we've left out can win.
All right, very good. Now, Metro Racing's obviously at Newcastle in New South Wales. So it is race 4. 4, 5, 11 are the 3 horses we need for this one. And then we go back to Caulfield for race 5 to finish the last leg of our hourly quaddie, the 2 p.m. one, as I've stated. 2, 6 and 8. So they're the numbers for the 2 p.m. hourly quaddie on Saturday with PointsBet. Good luck. JJ, that was fun. Thanks for giving us that horse early doors. We'll look out for that maybe in the next week or so. It might run before we see you again, but if it doesn't, you have a good week now.
Oh, well, I'd say probably next Saturday. I would think.
Beautiful.
Stardom, but
all right. Well,
hopefully another winning week.
I look forward to seeing that in the snap or don't snap, so it's a don't snap. So, all right. Thank you, mate. See you, pal.
Yes.
Thanks for watching, punters. Please like and subscribe.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.